Starting off this video here with a little bit of a mock-up, as you can see. Just wanted to get the fender on here. I had the wheel in there earlier just to kind of see what space I'm working with. Plus, it's exciting seeing this on here. I mean, I took these fenders off, August of last year, and they've been sitting back there since then. So it's kind of nice to see everything. I wanted to see how much space, like I was saying, I'm going to have between the rails here, what the height is kind of looking like just for the engine and everything. So nothing crazy, just a pretty rough mock-up of what it's going to be, because now it is time to start on phase 2 of this chassis right here. So if you watched the first 3 chassis videos, I gotta say a huge thank you to everyone who viewed those, liked those, commented those. There is a ton of really nice comments that is pretty motivating. So thank you guys for all that. I appreciate that a ton. That was awesome to read through and see pop up on my phone over the past few weeks. Well, like I said, it is time to go on to phase 2, which unfortunately means undoing a little bit of this first section here, but it's nothing too bad, because when I was wrapping this up, the final things I had to do was weld that to the torsion bar cross member, which runs underneath, and then weld it to the floor. And all I did was tack it there. Now, I didn't mention it in the last video because I wasn't sure if I was gonna go through and fully weld those on or not. But like I said, at that point, things were already turning for the second phase of this, which is essentially gonna be a full frame body on chassis car. Really wish I would have just decided this from the beginning. But seeing as the car's in its state as all cut up as is, I think it makes a lot more sense to go this route. And luckily, I won't have to cut a whole lot out of that super nice AMD floor, so I'm thankful for that. Just kind of sitting here eyeballing and thinking over the past week or so, I'm gonna have to cut out some of the rear section for the rails to run through. But I got a cool idea to tie that all in, and then once I run all the lines through the car, I've got an idea that I'll run it with the frame rails. And up here, it looks good and will work out. And when I cut the front end off of this and was thinking of this, I had that same thought, and obviously it worked out. I think it worked out at least a little bit. So just gonna stick to those ideas, because there's no point in not doing it. It's not like I'm gonna lose anything here. Step 1 of phase 2 of the chassis here is to knock this thing off. Luckily, there's only a few tack welds, so let's do that. And then I'm gonna lay out some of the new frame rails I just picked up the other day with this thing, and then kind of walk you guys through what I'm thinking and hopefully how this will all work out. There's only one spot out of this entire unit here that I could lay those 6.5 foot sections out and have them be level on the ground, because like I tried having them here, tried having them like halfway into the car, and there, it didn't work. So I just screwed them pretty much all the way forward up to here till about there, and then even if I moved like an inch back and then I were to step in them, they were teeter-totter. So I had to move them all the way up here to get them perfectly flat. Went through, leveled everything out, put this beam across the front, butted up the pieces to make sure it was all square. Got it all square side to side, and I'm just kind of test fitting it over here so you can see the bevel. So if I put some weight on this and then I push this up against the side right there, you can see that's flat. That space, that'll be flat right there. I can weld up that beveled section. Same deal on this side here. If I just push that against that, like so, you can see that'll line up. Obviously, it's not perfectly lined up. I'm just kind of test fitting it here and mocking up. So now that I can kind of visually see this, that's pretty exciting. Tomorrow, I might pull this outside onto the ground out there, because I think that's going to be a little more level in order to weld this section to that section. And then I got to figure out exactly what I want to do for cross bracing, because I'm not sure if I can keep these temporary pieces in here that I got mocked up. Because once this is going to go up in the floor, obviously I can't have that piece there and that piece there, because it's going to hit the floor. So a couple things left to figure out, but at least that's cool to see the entire thing mocked up like that. Pretty exciting there. this happens. When you put so much time and effort, and frankly money, into something, and then you look back and you're like, well, I could have done it better, or now I can do it better after I practiced or experienced doing something. And that's currently where I'm at with this entire thing here, which sucks, because I put like 3 weeks worth of work just into these front rails alone. And today I went through and welded up the back section here. Now I'm just sitting thinking, like, this is what's happening with this entire car here, and it's driving me insane. I have a final plan in mind. I have a rendering being done by a buddy, so I know what the final plan is. But then stuff like this is just, it's frustrating, because I've been sitting here for the past hour and a half, and it's like, I don't want to put more time into this if I'm gonna end up not using it. And as soon as that thought gets in my head of not using it or starting over, that's exactly what happens. I don't want to put more work into this, because it's like, well, what's the point? Or then I get excited on moving on to the next thing. This is not fun. Like, not fun at all. This is what I hate about this stuff. And what you don't see a lot of people show. You definitely don't see this side of stuff on TV. Maybe that's because those guys actually know what they're doing, whereas I don't. I just want to do something cool here, so. Dang it, dude. At the end of the day, it's just metal. But metal adds up quite quickly, price-wise. So does time. So does tanks of argon. So does flat discs. Oh man, if I could do this right, I would get another storage unit, put this entire body in there, not even look at this thing for probably a month or two. I don't even want to anymore. Get a chassis table. There's one on Marketplace right now for 500 bucks. I don't have a way of getting it here. That's the big issue, because it won't fit in the truck's bed. Also weighs a freaking gazillion pounds. Otherwise, I would have got that thing today, because that's going to be the right way to do this. Even though this is square, what I really need to do is get the... I need to get... God dang it, dude. See? How do people do this? Money. That's how. Because they can go out and buy freaking wheels and suspension and get that all set up first, and then build the chassis around it. And I'm trying to do it backwards here. Man. Good times. Alright, now you're going to pretend like you didn't see any of that, and we're just going to move on like nothing happened here. So in the end, decided to scrap those front rails. Not necessarily. I mean, I'm going to hang on to them, but they won't be used for this car here. Not sure what I'm going to do with them. You can see them just hanging out in the corner right there. Thought about selling them, but it's kind of pointless to anyone who doesn't raise the rear rails in their own car. And then at that point, they're probably capable of making their own fronts to fit their exact car. So maybe use them for another car down the line or something else, but they'll just kind of hang out in the unit there until I figure out what to do with them. Here you can see me, I cut out the mid rails because those were good there, just cleaned up the inside, and I'm starting to get some base measurements to figure out exactly how I'm going to notch that and where I'm going to have to cut the floor. Alright, we got the new midsection, aka the main piece of the frame. It's not really new, I just reuse these pieces. This is the bottom side right here, so I got these braces in it. These are 35 and 15/16 side to side, because that was the same width of the old front rails here, which is in turn the width that I need for the K-member. Then I got these edges all cut on an angle and beveled or chamfered, whatever you want to call it. That'll be flipped upside down, so it's essentially mimicking this piece right here, which this piece is on an angle. If you watch the first 3 chassis videos, you saw me cut that right there. So instead of having then another joint right here, I'm just eliminating that, and it's just gonna be one solid piece. And then I'll put the first, curved piece come up right there. Also, I got that the other day. That thing is not meant to cut 120 wall whatsoever, but it's so nice not having to cut this stuff by hand anymore. I mean, that doesn't really go through it like butter, but at least makes a straight cut. So happy with that. Now that I got this all square and situated, it took a while once again to find a square spot on the floor here. Just kind of went over and walked up and down. As you can see, like, that spot's not even square, so I think the only flat spot was like right here. I kind of had to make that work, but got the floor all cleaned up. Went through, did some math here, figure out where I'm gonna have to notch the backs of the floors, and I think I'm gonna notch the fronts as well. So I got that all figured out. I gotta do a, what was it, 13 3/16 gap from this pinch weld right along the side right there in, and then that'll be the first cut, and then the next cut will be 2 inches over because that's how wide the rails are. Here's the way too overcomplicated way to get a straight line because you don't have the right tools. You start out with your $15 laser level from Menards on your tripod. For your phone, this is what I do use all my time lapses for, and I broke it literally like last week, so it's held together with duct tape right there. Anyway, that's my laser level set up. And because I don't have a plumb bob, this was my idea for a plumb bob here, is I have this level that was sitting in the closet at work. No one probably knew it was there, so I borrowed it, using it for the car here, which I had to shim up on the sides to get it over the tunnel here. And I need to get this line exactly 13 3/16 over from the pinch weld right there. So what I did is I drew a Sharpie mark on the end of the level right there. You can see it on the top. It goes all the way down to that bottom lip as well. Lined that up with the outside edge of the pinch weld. Then exactly 13 3/16 over from that, I drew another black line on the level right there. So then the laser obviously goes to there. That's gonna be my straight line. And it was a bit tricky to get that mark on the front here because obviously I can't lay a level across because we have the tunnel. So what I did is I took tape measure, hooked it on the edge there, put my other little yellow level right there on top of the tape measure to make sure that was level when I was holding it. Took the square, butt up against the back side of there until the outer edge lined up with 13 3/16, and that's how I got my mark right there. So you can see the silver mark there lines up with the black mark on the level. Got this guy, if it'll focus there, I don't know if you can see that back bubble. That back bubble is perfectly leveled. So now that that is there, I can go ahead and use some tape. I'll tape that line all the way down on the side. And then I gotta do this 1, 2, 3 more times. This is gonna take a while. Yesterday, I got the marks for both the frame rails marked out. I decided just to mark them all the way to the front in case I have to notch out little sections throughout the way. But the main section is gonna be that part in the back getting notched out. Like I said, I'd rather just have them all marked out. Just in case I gotta mark a little spot, rather have that. Now I gotta figure out what spots on the torsion bar cross member to notch out. You can see that's where I had the old rails tacked to the front. And I wasn't really sure how to do this to get these lines up here exactly lined up with that. And then same thing on the back side of the cross member. So my plan here is this, and so far it seems to be working out pretty good. So I got the laser lined up with the lines on here, it goes all the way to the back, and then it's poking through on the ground just a little bit. So get that level again, get it level with the side of the tape, transfer it to the ground. Then I'm taking the straight edge and transferring the laser mark to the ground right here. So that way I can then lower the laser to whatever height I need to. So that way it'll shine on the ground and then it'll shine up on the cross member as well. So I'll erase that, clean that up. I'll have it follow directly this line on the ground because that's what I know what this line is here as well. That'll go up straight to the cross member. I'll continue this line back on the floor, flip the laser around, point it forward, and then that should get me the exact spot which I need to do. And then I'll also take this and I can turn it the other way, and that'll get me the exact top line at which I need to cut it all the way across. So just a lot of measuring and thinking here. Takes time. It took me a couple hours to get that other stuff done yesterday, so I'm expecting this to be the same. But hopefully, if I do this all right here, I can get this mocked up in the car today, and that should fit up pretty dang good. Finally have something after many hours of work, just measuring, figuring out all the math, wherever it is for this thing, and then using the old level there to get everything situated. But check it out. Got the rear section. Obviously the frame rail has to come up higher. I'm just checking the fitment now. Dude, I'm stoked on that. If I can get the entire thing to look like that all the way throughout, that is going to be pretty nice down the road to weld up. So that looks good there. Got the fronts looking good down there. You can see those. Where's the one on this side? There's the one on that side right there. Everything's looking pretty tight and clean. So then the next thing I gotta figure out is I gotta raise this up a little bit more. I can't because I'm running out of blocks and jack stands. So I gotta figure that part out still. And then once I can get that up higher, I'll figure out what other section of the floor I have to cut out. Right now, I kind of have a feeling I'm gonna end up cutting out. It'll probably go up to here, honestly, because think about it, this is where the torsion bar cross member butts up to, and it's looking like all these are lower than these points, and I don't know if I want to keep just a bunch of random spaces in here or what I want to do, because in the end I'm not sure if this is gonna, if I'm gonna make basically a box to go over there, so what I'm gonna do for the floor. So just kind of thinking ahead and trim a little bit at a time, take my time here and measure like 18 times and cut once, hopefully. That took 3 nights of work to get all situated to where I'm at. I don't even know how many hours. Man, it feel good to look at that and know that everything is now square. You can see I had to cut those sections there, which is what I kind of figured yesterday. I had to trim a little more on the cross member in order to get the rails up more, but I'm kind of thinking that's where they're gonna be. I left the ends a little long just because I wasn't sure back there where they need to be cut. I'll figure that out when I go to do the rear section of the chassis here, so not too worried about that. But you can see the front section, those guys are now all tucked up on the side right there. I mean, I think there's a little bit of gap. This will be pushed down once you actually put some weight on it. You can see this side there, it's pretty much seamless. So whew, that's gonna look pretty cool, I think, when it's all set and down. And then I got these guys in today. So these are what I'll be using for the bends for the front and the rears. I'll probably end up using both of these on the front. That's what I did for these right here. So yeah, that's the plan for now. Start mocking that up, start taking measurements, see if I'm gonna do something similar to the last front rails or how much higher I'm gonna end up actually raising them here. That's gonna wrap it up for this video. I think I got everything figured out where I'm gonna go from here. As you can see behind me, I'm already started to work on the front portion of the front rails, which you will see in the next video. And hopefully I can get that welded up to the mid rails, get everything mocked up and get that situated. So stuff to look forward to hopefully next weekend, and appreciate everyone watching this one.